The PS1. Better known formally as the PlayStation, this console was Sony's launch into video games in 1994 in Japan before arriving everywhere else in 1995. This console is essentially my whole world. Without it, I simply would not be playing video games today. Maybe that might be a video for the future, right? Anyway, off topic, the PlayStation was and still is an impressive beast. These days, most people are discovering that thanks to better video output and more recently the amazing HDMI mod that I so badly want. Mind you, there are many ways to play PS1 games and show them off on a HD TV. PS2, PS3, PSP, PS Vita and PlayStation TV. And PlayStation Classic, which, no. In this video's case, we're going to see how well the PSP outputs PS1 games over its component output in interlace and progressive modes. The PlayStation will be using this Sync-on Luma RGB Scart cable into the OSSC, while the PSP will do the same, albeit with component cables. Let's see what happens. A disclaimer before we start. On the PlayStation Portable, I used mostly NTSC games. Why? Because on my PSP, I like to try out games in other regions to see how they played compared to my PAL console. This should not affect the results you're about to see other than frame rates. Now, let's go. Right, let's first get a visual reference from the PlayStation. This console outputs 240p or 288p resolutions for the most part. Some games do take advantage of 480i or 576i interlace, which is referred to as the high-res mode on the system. Some games use interlaced menus while doing gameplay, the resolution switches back to progressive. Yeah, I know, I had no idea about any of this until I started to use devices like the ODV and the OSSC. It always made me wonder how some games had super detailed title screens and menus, but not gameplay. Another thing the PS1 makes clear is its use of dithering. With S-Video and beyond, the dithering patterns stick out like a sore thumb. The PS1 was limited to 16-bit colour during gameplay, and to make sure colour banding was kept to a minimum, dithering was the solution. I know most hate it these days, but I love it. It gives the PlayStation a distinct look and it's fabulous. Of course, in the early days of composite and CRT TVs, we never saw this effect, or not very easily. Lastly, some games do support widescreen. Yes, Tucker World Touring Cars is my favourite and best example of this, and it looks so cool. Right, that was the PlayStation. Now let's talk about the PlayStation Portable. Beginning from the PlayStation Portable 2000, which I'm using here, this device has two output modes. Interlace for 240p or 288p and 480i or 576i. This mode can only be used for non-PSP software. In other words, this mimics the PS1 resolution outputs and is also a good fit for the PSP screen size too. On the PlayStation Portable screen, every game looks fantastic with RGB quality and no resolution dropout whatsoever. I love playing PlayStation 1 games on this handheld. It's almost magical, and the PSP has a high compatibility rate with PS1 software. As for the output, using interlace and going through the OSSC, the results are pretty good. Side by side, the PSP footage is softer than real hardware, but I conclude the results are more than playable on a TV. I also noticed the dithering patterns are very different on the PSP. They're bigger and more of a diamond shape as opposed to circular dots on real hardware. It's not a big deal, although this does contribute to the more soft image seen from the PSP. We must also factor in that the PSP has to emulate the PS1, so this might also further explain the softer image. Another thing to note is the resolution switching. Both the PlayStation and the PlayStation Portable in interlace mode will struggle to display the content if the resolution switches during gameplay. My OSSC device is slow to change resolutions, incurring a brief dropout as the upscaler has to reconfigure the output. It makes certain games like Dino Crisis and Silent Hill almost unplayable and very, very hard to record footage from real hardware. The progressive mode on the PSP is a fixed 480p or 576p option, which does fix this problem. Unfortunately, in consequence, it makes 240p or 288p gameplay look very soft compared to real hardware. It's not awful, and smaller screen sizes would negate this effect. However, on my Samsung 4K LCD display, which is 40 inches, I can see the difference immediately, but I see it as a last resort rather than a viable solution. The 480p mode does come in handy for one other aspect though, 480i high-res games. This is something I discovered and was surprised to see no one else mention. Here's an easy example, Dead or Alive. Usually on real hardware, the game is interlaced, and on my OSSC I either have to use pass-through or Bob deinterlacing. Both modes have their pros and cons. Pass-through allows me to deinterlace the footage myself at the cost of added lag, whereas Bob deinterlacing makes the picture sharper with no added lag, but we end up with this shaky look. Personally, I don't mind it, but a lot of you might dislike it, and I do understand why. But the 480p mode on the PlayStation Portable cleans up the picture, and the Line 2X mode on the OSSC makes the image simply stunning. Although not as sharp as the Line 4X mode on the PS1, this is my preferred way to play the game. To prove it's not a fluke or a one-off, here's Tobal 2 for the PS1. This game runs in the PS1's high-res mode, and I argue the results here look even better. And on that note, here's Tekken 3 as well, another game that uses the PS1 high-res mode. Clearly a big improvement in some ways. I will make a dedicated video on this subject because more people should know about this trick. Otherwise though, I feel the PSP does a pretty good job outputting PS1 games to a TV, and it's an interesting, although not foolproof, alternative to playing PS1 games. I still think the PlayStation 3 is the better choice overall, but you can do much, much worse.
Hey yo! Round 2, fight!
Alright folks, that was PlayStation games on a PlayStation Portable against real hardware. I love that the PSP can even do such a thing, and it's something I'm thankful was actually possible on this powerhouse. The PlayStation Portable continues to impress and surprise me after all these years. Of course, playing on real hardware will always be the preferred option, but hey, this is why we have choices in life, right? Well, let me know what your thoughts are on this subject, and until my next video, I will see you soon.